folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. We knew it all along. Look, Hillary Clinton, pay-to-play scheme with the Clinton Foundation being used as her own personal piggy bank. This is what's being reported by Just the News, that the FBI was looking into Hillary Clinton, going all the way back to 2015, 2016, and the FBI agents in Little Rock, New York, and D.C. were told to, quote, shut it down. The DOJ covering for Hillary Clinton, all the while pushing the Obama collusion conspiracy against President Trump when it comes to Russia. So deceitful. So as all of this starts to unfold, it becomes very clear to me that a pattern is emerging. The DOJ constantly covered for Democrats. Think about Adam Schiff. We now have a whistleblower that had come forward going all the way back to 2016 that said he personally witnessed Adam Schiff approve the release of classified information. That was scuttled. All the things into Letitia James, that scuttled. Hillary Clinton, scuttled. James Comey telling the FBI agents to polish up stories with the New York Times and literally work in cahoots with them. DOJ, not a care in the world when it comes to that stuff. But President Trump, go after him with a vengeance. President Trump, you got classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, we're going after you. Joe Biden, you got them in your garage, we're going to let you skate. It was a double standard all the way around. But now this news about what I believe we always knew. Hillary Clinton was engaging in a pay-to-play scheme. That, too, scuttled by the devious, deceitful, and criminal Obama DOJ. We're going to talk about that today on the program, go through some of the details that our good friends over at Just the News have released. But before we do, I want to tell you about my friends over at the Wellness Company, twc.health/grant. This is what you need. You need one of these medical kits. You have 8 of the most common prescription medications in here, including ivermectin, all made out to you. God forbid there's a medical emergency. God forbid there's a natural disaster or a power outage that has drugstores shut down. You want prescription medications on hand. When you are talking about curing some of these things, it's all about speed of delivery. You have these prescription medications on hand. When you go through them, you just call up the Wellness Company and they'll refill them so you keep your kit stocked all the time. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. So important. And then, of course, the Wellness Cleanse. The Parasite Cleanse. This Parasite Cleanse, I'm on it for a week now. I have more energy than I know what to do with. I don't even know what this is about. Could parasites really have been having that great of an effect that I'm now seeing a noticeable difference in my energy? Maybe. How do you get the Parasite Cleanse? Again, just go to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off, and the Wellness Company will get right with you. Send it out to you. Look, sold out 3 times. They got them back in stock because it works. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. Let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
New was that Hillary Clinton, using the Clinton Foundation, was engaging in a massive pay-to-play scheme that would move hundreds of millions of dollars in foreign donations from foreign entities that had business before the State Department through the Clinton Foundation, and ultimately, Jen, pay off all of her friends and family and expensive office space, and basically use the Clinton Foundation as a piggy bank. Mm-hmm. Well, our friends over at Just the News, John Solomon, has been given more documents that have been handed over to Congress coming out of the FBI. FBI memos and internal emails that show the FBI had launched an investigation into Hillary Clinton, that there were agents in Little Rock, D.C., and New York City.
Okay.
That believed they had evidence of this pay-to-play scheme that we had accused Hillary Clinton of engaging in. Mm-hmm. They start collecting some of that evidence in 2016. Sally Yates, do you remember that?
I do.
name?
It's almost 10 years ago. And I also remember this story being so prolific that even the mainstream media was talking about how this was going on, and yet there was never really any confirmations about it, right?
Well, think about this.
Yeah.
As you have agents who are looking at all of this, Sally Yates, Deputy Attorney General, according to these emails and documents, says, quote, shut it down.
Wow.
Okay? Andrew McCabe, remember him?
Of course.
Take no overt steps without my approval of any investigative action. They basically put roadblocks everywhere. Now, while they're putting roadblocks to investigate Hillary Clinton, this is 2016.
This was all about Haiti, too. Weren't they doing, like, they were collecting money for Haiti, and they were talking about how, all those things were the reasons.
They were taking money from everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So this is 2016. This is the height of the election season for President Trump's first term. They are going full steam ahead on the Russian collusion hoax. Mm-hmm. And they're basically saying, shut it down to
something with
the
real
FBI
legs.
to look into Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean, this to me, and this is all backed up in emails. You had agents in New York that were going out. Nope, not allowed to do it.
How do they keep their emails, by the way? I mean, if you're up to something crooked, it seems like they could have done some bleach bidding like Hillary Clinton. Why wouldn't they take any notes from her?
I had said that when President Trump won the second time around, when they knew that they didn't have their own in the office. See, in 2016, they knew they still had their own.
Yeah, they were in there.
FBI. None of the whistle was really blown on all of this stuff, right?
And don't forget, President Trump was under tremendous pressure because he was the outsider. And he even said, I wasn't really prepared that time around. And he had a lot of people around him saying, you don't want to disrupt the status quo. You still need a lot of the people in there who provide the structure to the government, blah, blah, blah. So he was hoodwinked in many ways by people who said, we need to keep some of these folks in positions of power.
So they know they've got protection then. But the second term for President Trump started just 7 months ago.
Yeah.
I told you that I believed the Hoover Building was a crime scene. Mm-hmm. And that unless we got people in there right away, they would destroy everything. How they didn't destroy it. Now, things were hidden. There were boxes of documents, but many of these are electronically found. This was ordered by Bondi and Kash Patel to go in and dig out all this stuff. This is all part of the things that they found. One of the documents goes back to August of 2015. Mm-hmm. And an FBI supervisory special agent at the Washington field office had a, quote, brief discussion with a member of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia regarding the Clinton Foundation allegations. Now, this is 2015. This had been focused on in the book. You may remember. We know him. He's been on the program. Peter Schweitzer and Clinton Cash.
That's what I remember reading. I read the book cover to cover, and he outlined exactly what's being proven now.
So he was spot on.
Yeah. Apparently.
So they're talking about this, and the investigator, whose name's redacted, of all things, was in the process, this is quote, was in the process of attempting to predicate an investigation based on the allegations. Mm-hmm. I promise you, if Peter Schweitzer wrote a book about Stinchfield and he was breaking all kinds of crimes and breaking all kinds of laws and engaging in all kinds of crimes, and that was a best-selling book, you better believe the FBI would be all over it.
Right.
You have a woman who is a Secretary of State now running for President of the United States, and there's these wild allegations with lots of evidence to back them up, and the DOJ says shut it down. It goes to show you how deep the swamp runs, how many people they had on their side. You know, we were talking about, well, who's going to make Gavin Newsom answer for his record in California? Nobody, because the media was on their side. Who was going to ask these questions? The media.
And no one's answering the questions. No one's asking the questions. Wow.
No. So this says the DOJ's public integrity section, according to this timeline, and they put together, the FBI agents put together a timeline of all of this, okay, where the Clinton Foundation was a, quote, likely ancillary and with the intention of informing the redacted DOJ officials that the investigator was continuing to study the matter to possibly predicate an investigation. So what it's saying is now the Clinton Foundation somehow becomes aware of this and is also pushing the DOJ to shut it down.
And this is also probably why Hillary Clinton launched the Russia hoax to begin with, because not only was she under investigation for her emails, but she's also now under investigation. She realizes something going on here, and she needs a distraction to make Donald Trump look like the crook.
Yeah, but that is true 100%. But the Russia investigation started before this
Because of the emails.
because of the emails. Which emails you talking about?
The emails with Benghazi, with the beach bit and all that stuff. She wanted him to have a scandal like she had a scandal.
Yes. And honestly, I believe that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and Obama would have done everything they could to stop Trump. I believe all of that Steele dossier was concocted from the highest levels of the Obama administration, including Obama, run through Hillary Clinton. I think in the end that'll come out. Now,
we need
what
heads to
happens
roll
with
on this stuff, though. If you don't get it, I mean, I don't know how you can investigate the heck out of somebody that didn't commit a crime in Donald Trump. And then people where you do have your agents working on looking to see if crimes were committed and you tell them to stop and there's not going to be a punishment. Andrew McCabe, if I'm Andrew McCabe, I might be a little bit more nervous today.
You know what's amazing to me is what's happening now. We're getting evidence of what we've known. So Adam Schiff, it comes out that Adam Schiff approved the authorization of classified information, according to an eyewitness that was a whistleblower, and they turned the back. This is what? The DOJ turning the back on a Democrat crime. Then you've got it coming out that James Comey was authorizing FBI agents to go talk to the New York Times to, quote, polish up stories.
Polish them up, yeah.
Polish them up. Well, we knew that the FBI and the media were all in cahoots, and the DOJ, no problems. Now it comes out Hillary Clinton was engaged, or at least FBI officials were worried she was engaged in a pay-to-play scheme as Secretary of State.
Yep.
And the DOJ says, no, we're not going to investigate. Oh, Letitia James, we knew she was playing politics with these investigations into President Trump. It comes out there's evidence that she was engaged in politics. Back then, the DOJ doesn't care. Now we got a grand jury investigation. We're starting to get, I understand nobody thinks that anything really bad is going to happen to these people, which it should. But at least we've got grand juries for them.
At least somebody's hearing the information. And I want to say thanks to Just the News, because it seems like every day we're getting bombshell reports out of John Solomon. And the way he's writing them out, you can really follow them. They're linked for evidence. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. I'm looking at the latest one right now about Hillary Clinton. So justthenews.com. Well done to John Solomon.
You know what I told John Solomon last night?
What's
I
that?
said, John, I said, here's the thing. I said, here's why I'm so happy. And I've become pretty close friends with him, working together with him at Real America's Voice. He's got a show there, too, right before mine. I said, I love the fact that these people are finally being exposed because of your diligent investigative work.
Yeah.
I said, but what I really love is that John Solomon is running circles around the New York Times and the Washington Post, who has kids all over the street in D.C., and John Solomon and Just the News are kicking their ass, and I love it.
Yeah, I love it, too.
We all love it, don't we? Kudos to John Solomon. He's breaking news every single second. Now, we're going to get reaction to this. I want to go through some of why all this really matters, and will Hillary ever be locked up? I mean, I'm with you. I'd probably say no, but we do have grand juries formed where we never had grand juries formed before. I mean, when you look at Letitia James and Jack Smith and some of the other situations. So that's all good things moving in the right direction. But will we really, when we say get justice, what does that really mean? To me, it means people go to jail, to prison. But I am glad that this is all being exposed now, where it hadn't been exposed for a really, really long time. At least we didn't have the evidence that we have now. And they never thought Trump was going to win. And now that he did, boy, everything has changed. Hey, I'm going to a Jason Aldean concert tonight in Dallas. I can't wait to go. If you're happen to be there, please, if you see me, come up and say hi. I'd love to say hi to you. The reason I'm going, Patriot Mobile is one of the big sponsors of this concert. Patriot Mobile is the official cell phone service provider of Stinchfield's Army. I have cell phone service by Patriot Mobile. I love them. 100% U.S.-based customer service. As I mentioned, a portion of the proceeds that they make go to pushing conservative causes, whether it's gun rights or free speech rights or helping our veterans out, getting veterans off the street that are homeless. All of these things. Patriot Mobile is committed to moving America in the right direction. Beyond that, you choose what network you want to be on. So the service is not going to change from a connection perspective. Customer service, it will, because it's U.S.-based. Takes minutes to switch. With these new eSIM numbers, I switched my service when I did this a few years back. It took minutes. So I urge you, make the switch today. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. That's PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month's service. That's promo code GRANT. You tell them I sent you. 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT. Heck, there's also the Patriot One plan where you can get 2 lines on one phone with 2 different networks, so you know you're always going to have a good signal no matter what city you're in. No other cell phone service provider can provide that. Only Patriot Mobile. 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-PATRIOT. And you tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you. Use that promo code GRANT for that free month's service. All right. Response to all of this going down with Hillary Clinton. President Trump knew some of this was coming out. He was at the Kennedy Center yesterday. I love this. He's going to be hosting the Kennedy Center Honors Awards. He's got a whole slew of honorees, which they said all came across his desk because he's now running the Kennedy Center. Gene Simmons is one. Sylvester Stallone is one. The guy that was the original Phantom and Phantom of the Opera. It's going to be a great show now that Trump is in charge, and it'll be one of the highest rated shows. With all that aside, President Trump sees that his team is starting to uncover all kinds of this bogus nonsense, and he responded.
Totally phony, created by Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia the way we should have been. I'm looking at Pam because I hope something's going to be done about it. These people put our country at great danger. And Adam Schiff, it was all made up. It was a hoax. The Mueller report came out. They all hated me. They had 18 Trump haters. And they said I did nothing wrong. They couldn't believe, they couldn't find anything after years of investigation. It was all a hoax.
Well, they couldn't find anything because, as the president said, it was all a hoax. We know that. We can pound this drum ad nauseum. But the reason we talk about this is because as the FBI memos come out, as the FBI documents come out that prove the collusion with inside the FBI, that Comey was working with the DOJ and the media. That's the 3-pronged force that was after President Trump. DOJ, FBI, the media. You can throw the CIA in there as well and then add in the deep state and every single agency across the federal government. It's amazing that President Trump is where he is today. And so I've said many times that as upset as I was about the election being stolen from President Trump in 2020, in many respects, it had to happen. I don't think President Trump was ready in 2020 in a second term then to uncover what he is now uncovering. I think the vengeance that they went after President Trump with in the 4 years leading up to the 2020 election, through the 2024 election, the vengeance that the Democrats went after President Trump with leading up to the 2024 election had to happen to make President Trump so angry. Angry as a bee-stung sidewinder. Now this guy's dangerous. He wants those that went after him to pay. You just heard him there. I think you have members of Congress that want him to pay. Here's one of them that was on with my buddy John Solomon and Amanda Head on Just the News.
Thank you to you, John, and thank you for the incredible investigative work that you all have continued to work to get the facts and to get the truth out to the American people. And that is exactly what we're seeing. I mean, these are facts that the American people cannot deny. These are the things that I think we have wanted to know. People have kind of believed in their gut that these things happen, but now you actually have documentation. You have the whistleblower. You have the documents that Kash Patel has declassified, that we're now able to see this information for ourselves. And I just think that's critical. We've been saying for months that when the facts come out, that if what we believe may be true is proven true, it's going to make Watergate look like child's play. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing unfold before our very eyes with this.
So if that's true, and I believe it is, I believe this is far worse than Watergate. Watergate was a break-in into the Democrat offices. Horrible. You can't be breaking into your political opponent's offices. But think about what unfolded leading up to the 2020 election and then what happened between 2020 and 2024. This was an attempt. I call it sedition because it was trying to take over and run a coup on the federal government, on President Trump, concoct and frame him for crimes that he didn't commit. I mean, sending an innocent man to prison, accusing an innocent man of crimes he didn't commit, it doesn't get any worse than that. Add in the fact that now you're trying to take over a country. I mean, that's awful. Let me flash back to you. This was Hillary Clinton, back when she was pushing the Russian collusion narrative. And I play this because I want you to remember that she looked at Rachel Maddow straight in the face, which in turn was the liberal left, straight in the face, and told us things like this.
And in terms of fleshing out that factual record about what actually happened, including what happened with the Russian attack in 2016, right. I wondered, as you read the Mueller report, the parts of it, at least that we can read, did you learn new things about what happened to you and your campaign in 2016 that you didn't know before reading it?
I learned more, and I learned more detail.
Okay.
But here's the important thing to me. What I learned is that the Russians were successful. I don't think there's any way to read that report and not conclude they accomplished what they set out to do. They had an objective to sow discord and divisiveness within our society at large and to help Donald Trump, and they succeeded.
How dare her? It has all turned out to be 100% completely false, and I'll say this with a predicate. Yes, the Russians maybe had bots pushing social media posts to sow discord in the United States. It's no surprise every one of our enemies is doing that. But what they made it out to be was that the Russians were meddling in our election system, somehow rigging the vote in favor of President Trump. She's saying that they're successful in that is a flat-out lie. We now know from reading the documents inside the FBI and the CIA, thanks to Kash Patel and others, that Russia was 100% convinced Hillary would win. Now, Hillary dodges the question that Rachel asked. Now, she asked a question that could have put Hillary in legal jeopardy because they were talking about, this alleged hack that happened. The Russians hacked into her emails. Well, her emails were on a server in her bathroom. She didn't want to talk about that. She wanted to get away from that subject as quickly as she could. And who did she have pushing all of this? Adam Schiff. And now we've learned, thanks again to John Solomon and Just the News, that Adam Schiff was leaking classified information, according to a whistleblower that witnessed it firsthand, who claims to have, was pushing this bogus information. Now, we don't know exactly what classified information was leaked, but I can only assume that it was more on this Obama collusion. I don't call it the Russian collusion hoax anymore. It's the Obama collusion conspiracy to take down President Trump related to a Russian hoax. Okay? The Obama collusion conspiracy. This is a RICO case. It's like a mob case. I've got the chart. I've made the family tree like a mob family. And Barack Obama is right up at the top. He's the godfather. And so what they did is despicable, and make no mistake, Adam Schiff was right there at the forefront of it.
Adam Schiff is not only a stone cold, hopeless loser, but he is one of the most corrupt, one of the most shameful, one of the most heinous individuals ever to serve in public office in America. And everything he's devoted his life to has been debunked, discredited, and discarded. He literally represents the face of failure. His sole achievement in life was fighting a losing war against Donald Trump, and now President Trump is in the White House, and Adam Schiff is the leader of a dying and dethroned movement. This is, I mean, it really is amazing. Think about what the Democrat Party is fighting against. What are they?
They're fighting against President Trump. That's all they have to fight against. Trump, 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 Trump. It's Trump derangement syndrome, and it is still on display today. I told you and urged you go back and watch yesterday's podcast about the most dangerous man in America today being Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair, who refuses to lower interest rates. Why? He refuses to lower interest rates because he wants to hurt Trump. And in turn, these Democrats do not care about American citizens. A bad economy is bad for all Americans, okay? Powell is trying to do everything he can to keep America in the same uncertainty that it was under Joe Biden. The only problem is he's losing because the economy is continuing to take off under President Trump, even though interest rates are being held down. Imagine if you lowered interest rates, it would take off. Go watch yesterday's podcast. We get into it in a very deep fashion. But all they do is lose. The Democrats do not have a winning game plan other than to attack Trump for just being Trump. And right now, Trump is winning, and we're not tired of the winning at all. So the question then becomes, will we get any justice? Will they go to jail? Well, Benny Johnson, great guy, runs a great podcast, had Jeanine Pirro on, Judge Jeanine, who's now the U.S. attorney in the Washington, D.C. area. She's great, by the way, and I mean great.
You know what, Benny? I think you know that this is my wheelhouse. And the difference between me and some other people is that I don't talk about what I'm investigating. I don't talk about what I'm doing. When I have the evidence, when I have enough to go forward, you will hear from me loud and clear.
Oh, we'll hear from Judge Jeanine loud and clear. She is no shortage of words. I miss her on Fox News, but I love that she's in the position of U.S. attorney now. So I believe that she will personally oversee the investigations into Adam Schiff, quite possibly Hillary Clinton. Though in John Solomon's piece about Clinton, there are, of course, statute of limitation concerns for all of this. The problem is, I think that some of the donations to the Clinton Foundation continued, which would then mean that the payoffs continued for the moves she made while she was Secretary of State. That would mean the statute of limitations would still be in place if you can prove all of that. Now, this is very easy for an investigator to do. You go and see when the donation came in from a foreign entity, and then you look and see what Hillary Clinton or the State Department, what decisions did they make? If money comes in and a decision is made within 3-4 weeks of when that money came in, now you could say, okay, there's something to look at here. Then what you have to do is you have to come up with a pattern of this, because a one-off, you're not going to be able to make stick. But if there becomes a pattern of millions of dollars flowing to the Clinton Foundation, favorable decisions for the person or entity or country that is offering up those donations, now you've got a pattern, and now you've got something you can take to a jury. It would say a reasonable person would look at this and say, you know what? If you're Secretary of State, you should have not been taking the money from these organizations, countries, entities that had business before your agency. And because you did, you opened yourself up to corruption allegations when you take the money and then make a decision that certainly looks to a reasonable person like you made the decision because you took the money. It's not that hard to do. This is what the FBI agents were doing in 2015, 2016 before they were told to shut it all down. Again, par for the course. Now, I want to learn lessons from other countries. I'd rather not have us experience the tyranny and then have to learn lessons from what we experience and change our ways. We had enough of that. We've learned plenty of lessons from COVID. We learned plenty of lessons of Joe Biden. So let's look at another country. let's look and learn and learn on how they're doing things. And I want to look at England, which at one point was a society that was somewhat like ours, and I believe they embraced freedom. But, England doesn't have a constitution like we do. There's nothing that says you're guaranteed free speech in England. And in fact, the government now has weaponized that lack of a constitution, that lack of a right in England. What they are doing now, arresting people for catcalling female joggers. Catcalling female joggers is completely inappropriate. It's not the gentlemanly thing to do. I remember driving with my father when I was a child. He saw a pretty jogger. He might toot the horn a couple times. I was embarrassed by that, but even that's not really. But should you be arrested for it? Well, if you make someone uncomfortable, you can be arrested now in England. The online privacy and online hate speech laws that they have enacted there are really, really frightening. We'll go through some of that here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to tell you about energizedhealth.com. I'll tell you what, folks, I told you a year ago I started Energized Health. 2 weeks in, I lost 15 pounds. I virtually kept it off. And then I started to get away from some of the tried and true pillars of the Energized Health intracellular hydration program. This summer, took a lot of vacations. I gained about 6 pounds back that I wasn't happy with. I instantly reinstituted the Energized Health protocol. In 1 week, I'm 7 days in. I'm down 5 pounds, feeling great. Energy is great. You name it, I got it. Thanks to Energized Health. This stuff works. It gives you a protocol that you can use for the rest of your life. No crazy diets, no crazy workouts, just a little bit of a commitment. Change your diet around just a little bit. And this is a life-saving protocol. Mind, body, soul, too, by the way. I feel better. My mind is clearer. EnergizedHealth.com. That's EnergizedHealth.com. I believe their My 555 challenge is still going on. My555challenge.com or go to EnergizedHealth.com. 5 days, 5 pounds, $5 guaranteed. There's an upgrade for the VIP, $99. You get this cool freaking scale that'll measure all of your biometrics that you need to keep track of your progress. I use it every day for $99. Then you get the free coaching call. They're right there with you every step of the way. Upgrade to the VIP when you go do this. EnergizedHealth.com. That's EnergizedHealth.com. Please tell them that I sent you there for this. Okay. England. Whew, I'll tell you what. This is absolutely out of control. I'm going to show you some of the things that are going on in England. This was a little piece that was done by the news, and I saw this and I said, I got to play it for you guys because I could see something like this happening in the United States.
These women aren't friends out for a run. They're actually undercover police officers taking to the streets in Surrey as part of a new operation trying to stop people catcalling and harassing female runners.
We get honked at, the staring, the hanging out of the window just to look at us, and it's so prevalent.
All right. So we got undercover police officers that have taken to the streets to catch people honking and catcalling at them. You don't think England has worse things to worry about than a guy who is, in many respects, rudely acknowledging the beauty of a woman? Rudely doing it. Don't get me wrong. I don't like the idea of catcalling, okay? But you're going to put undercover police officers and then do what to these people? You know, you've got a situation in England right now. Muslims have completely taken over. Every major city in England has a Muslim mayor that appears to be very, very radical. 70% of the country is now moving in that direction. England is changing, and this is what they're worried about.
And police teams are ready to intervene the moment the officers are beeped at, followed, or shouted at, pulling people over.
Those kind of behaviours may not be criminal offences in themselves, but they still need to be addressed. And of course, the people that are likely to commit those kind of behaviours, you know, they may then go on to commit more serious offences or more serious behaviours.
Now, because you honk at a woman or whistle at someone, now you're such a crazy criminal that you're going to go on and commit another offense. And you hear what he just said? It's not criminal, but we've got to put a stop to these behaviors. So now government is deciding what behaviors are appropriate for you and the people that are outside, well, I would say inside the bounds of the law. They have gone off the deep end. And yet, folks, they protect the criminals in England. All of this liberal lunacy is on display in the United Kingdom. So while they're going after guys who honk at girls because they're pretty on the side of the street, apparently if you're a burglar in England, you can go into someone's house and be cited for trespassing, not burglary, if there's no proof of intent to burglarize. You can literally enter someone's home and just get a simple trespassing citation, even though you scare the bejesus out of the lady inside. What am I talking about? Watch this.
This man in this vehicle has just entered a lady's property without her consent, and these officers have said it's not an offence. They're letting him go. They're letting him go. Officer, how is that not an offence?
So this criminal goes into a woman's house. She screams and somehow calls 911. Police get there. They grab him, but are going to write him a citation and let him go, a citation for trespassing. Now, in America, especially in Texas where I live, you want to come into my house and trespass into my house? The only way you're leaving will most likely be inside a body bag, okay? And I'm not saying that to be a tough guy. I'm not saying that but you're not coming through my door, okay? Unwanted, where my family is and my son lives and my very special lady friend may be and her daughters may be at some time. And you're going to come into my house? Not happening. But in England, you're just trespassing.
How is it not an offence entering someone's house? That poor lady. Regardless, she didn't want him in the house. Is alarm fear and discretion? Is alarm fear and discretion offence? Is she not alarmed even if you're letting him go? Let him go. Does she? He's allowed to do that.
People are pissed, as you can see, and I don't blame them for being pissed. Now, this is where I see America headed, because notice what's happened here. Police have undercover teams to go after the law-abiding that they don't like their aggressive behavior of whistling at women. They'll put undercover teams for that, but you'll have 6 officers standing on the side of the street not knowing what to say about a guy who broke into somebody's house.
He does it again. When he does it, he got arrested. He does it again. Regardless, he's done it once. He don't need to do it again. He doesn't need to do it again. You know you're going to cause a war on the streets. You know you're causing a war on the streets, right?
You think those cops, the man and the woman cop there, know that this is outrageous? They're so stupid, though. They're walking around with no firearms. I never understood that about police in England, too. Like literally living in Disney World. They're going to talk to this one officer.
You're causing a war on the streets. How are you letting him go?
What's your name? I'm going to walk in someone's name. I'm not saying nothing. And I'll get all their collar numbers.
You have said that it isn't an offence entering a property. Can I have your name, number, please? Yeah, go for it. Do you think it's not an offence entering a property? Regardless, if I entered your house with your wife and kids in there, are you going to be angry and want to get me arrested?
Be angry, but you have to prove intent for it to be burglary. Yeah?
I had done the same thing when I was 16. I got arrested for attempted burglary.
So they would have had to prove your
No, they didn't. All I done was walked in the house. I got done done for attempted burglary, and I was in the middle of an argument. Mate, you're a fucking disgrace, an absolute disgrace. You're a disgrace to the UK government, to the UK people. You're a disgrace. All of you are a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. You're going to end up nicking her.
You see why they're so angry? There will be an uprising in the United Kingdom as you see all of this unfold. You've got the thought police out now. There are no protest zones. You're not even allowed to protest. So again, England does not have a constitution. Right to free speech is not a thing in England. So you've got England now. Let's go through some of it. Criminalizing free speech, saying that anything, quote, offensive online, okay, can land you in handcuffs. And you can't hurt people's feelings even through Facebook posts and memes. And if you do, the social media companies pose massive fines as well. So what are the social media companies supposed to do? You know, we talk about social media censorship. Well, in this case, I guess I don't even blame them for censoring in England if the social media sites are going to be fined massively, like 10% of your yearly profits. If this happens, if I was Twitter, Facebook, I'd shut down in the United Kingdom. So hate speech is apparently now whatever the government says it is. The government's definition of hate speech is so vague and broad that it's applied to almost anything, turning lawful political opinions into criminal acts. And I'm telling you, folks, this is all by design. Listen to this guy.
Lots to get through, including the Online Safety Act, which you have highlighted two key parts amongst the litany of outrage, but two key particular parts of this which have caused you big concern. Just explain what they are.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure everyone watching this programme understands that this Online Safety Act, Orwellianly named, is plunging this country into a China-style surveillance state. And so there are two key things I want to flag inside the Act. Section 44, which allows the Secretary of State to unilaterally force Ofcom to change the rules about what needs to be censored and what doesn't, without an act of parliament, without a vote. So basically, it's a death knell of democracy in that respect. The second one is Section 179, which is even more insidious. What it does is make it illegal to say something that is false, that causes, and I quote, non-trivial psychological harm. And it's not just making that illegal, it is forcing social media companies to proactively censor that speech. And the penalties that are being imposed on these social media companies are things like 10% of global revenues and potentially criminal sanction for management. So what?
Yeah. So again, what do you want the social media companies to do? I would shut down. If I'm Meta, YouTube, that would be Google, Instagram, X, Truth Social, shut it down in the United Kingdom. Why take the risk? And then you've stifled speech. So what has government done? They've taken the social media companies, got them to shut down in the United Kingdom, stifle speech. So what can now happen? I actually believe it's about the rise of radical Islam. They want to protect it. They want the rise of radical Islam. The people running England, for whatever reason, I have no idea. Things are going to get very, very bad in England. Our number one ally is not going to be that for very long. Even J.D. Vance, our vice president, has noticed this is becoming a very, very big problem.
Well, I'd say I've raised concerns about free speech in the United States of America. I think the entire collective West, the transatlantic relationship, our NATO allies, certainly the United States under the Biden administration, got a little too comfortable with censoring rather than engaging with a diverse array of opinions. So that's been my view. Obviously, I've raised some criticism and concerns about our friends on this side of the Atlantic. But the thing that I'd say to the people of England or to anybody else, to David, is many of the things that I worry most about were happening in the United States from 2020 to 2024. I just don't want other countries to follow us down what I think was a very dark path under the Biden administration. So in the spirit of having a good conversation, and recognizing the secretary has a lot of things to do, unless you want to say anything else. Okay. Thank you all so much.
Well, there you go. That's J.D. Vance putting it like it is, and I'm glad he is. Now, right now, when we have President Trump in office, we should be pretty good. But I will tell you, you're going to be shocked about this. President Trump is going down a road of doing something that I think we all want to happen, but I'm going to raise an issue with what the effects can be of the lawsuits that President Trump is waging against the media companies. I am very fearful that if the Democrats pick up President Trump's model of suing media companies, the Hillary Clintons, the Joe Bidens of the world, the Gavin Newsoms will start suing old Stinchfield here. They don't like that I say it's the Joe Biden crime family. They don't like that I say Hunter Biden is with underage girls and a pedophile. They don't like when I say those. They're going to sue me, even though they're public figures, and we should have protection from that so our voices are not silenced. I believe President Trump's going after the media, although you may think it's well-deserved, may actually be a problem. We talked about this on the Morning Answer, and I want to play that conversation with you because it's going to be controversial. You may disagree with me on this, and that's okay if you do. But I want you to listen closely and see why I am so concerned about it. Oh, there's something I see happening in the mainstream media amongst politicians, including President Trump, that I'm very, very concerned over, and I'm concerned about the ability to engage in free speech over this. Mm-hmm. And that is the growing number of lawsuits. And I know for everybody out there, it's going to sound great when President Trump is suing the New York Times or suing the Wall Street Journal or suing the Washington Post. I know it sounds good, like we're taking the fight to them. Mm-hmm. But the end result could be the silencing of conservative media as well. And the reason being is that all of us go under a common premise that the Supreme Court has made very clear that when it comes to public figures, we have protection from being sued, which means
you learn this in journalism school, by the way.
Yes, you learn this in journalism school. As long as we believe, we don't even need to believe it's true. As long as we don't know it's false. Mm-hmm. So if we know it's false, and then here's another aspect to it. Not only if we know it's false, but we have to act with malice in order to be sued. This is a tremendously high bar to sue the media.
Yeah.
Okay? We've got to know it's false, and we've got to publish it anyway with malice. Mm-hmm. Now, I think you could make an argument on the Hunter Biden laptop that the mainstream media knew it was false, and they published it with malice.
I agree with you.
Okay? There are
Although they back themselves up with the letter from the intel community. That's how they do this, though. This is the swamp, is they back themselves up with the letters that were phony, saying that this was Russian misinformation.
And remember what they also did. They attributed to the CIA, to a United States senator, to the sitting president, a former Secretary of State. I mean, you're quoting people, whether we like them or not, with pretty high titles.
They had attributions.
They have attributions. Now they're all in cahoots together. But what happens when, and I'll give you an example of what I don't like. So Trump sues the Wall Street Journal over the letter that he allegedly wrote, a happy birthday letter, handwritten note to Epstein. Mm-hmm. Trump says it's not mine. Sues. Well, you know, I don't believe the Wall Street Journal knows it's not President Trump's
right.
letter.
If they get a hold of it and it looks like it, they're going to go with it.
Yes. And so I don't think, or the Melania Trump, which was horrible, horrible story about Melania Trump and how Epstein and Trump met and connecting Melania to Epstein. It was a crazy roundabout way. But I don't actually believe they knew it was false. I think they were getting information, and they do it just as Jen and I have done so many times, reporting on stories about Hunter Biden. I think it's Hunter Biden's cocaine in the White House. Mm-hmm. Well, under the Trump administration, I would have gotten sued if I said I think that's
because you don't know.
Donald Jr.'s
right. You don't know
cocaine. You don't know. It has a chilling and silencing effect on speech, and I will give you the best example of where it's having a chilling and silent effect on me, much to our detriment. Now, in October, I've got to go testify in a trial for Newsmax against Dominion Voting. I'm very hesitant to talk about it, but what I could say, and that's part of the chilling effect of this.
Is that you have to go testify now.
Well, I'm looking forward to testifying, but for the last 4 years after the lawsuit happened, hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm named 300 times in the lawsuit, thankfully not named personally. I was really told, for my own legal benefit, don't talk about this case on air. Now, I can tell you this, and I won't go into much more than this. I believed what I said, what I was telling you was true at the time.
Yeah.
Okay? I had the president of the United States telling me, I had his attorneys telling me all of these things. Everything was attributed to the administration of what was soon to be an outgoing administration. And you're suing? How in the world do you get to sue for this?
Right.
As if what they're claiming is we knew it was false and we acted in malice. Just absolutely false. Not the case whatsoever. Of every fiber of my being, I believed what I was saying could possibly be true when I were attributing this.
Right. And here's the thing. When you do any kind of reporting, you are going on the information that you have. That's what the lawsuits scare me about. So we know that we think the mainstream news media knows what they're up to. They knowingly try to push stuff out there. They make choices editorially. We make choices editorially here. But the thing is, if you are reporting what you think is true, and then it turns out that it's not true, the last thing you need is worrying about getting a lawsuit thrown at you. I mean, that's tough. That's a tough thing to deal with, and it kind of kills the business.
Here's why our founding fathers basically excluded public figures from libel and those kinds of charges. Because they didn't want a tyrannical government, to all of a sudden be suing every member of the media to silence the media.
Right, to shut it down. Yeah.
Shut it down. And so even if you're spot on 100% covered, I mean, again, I'm hesitant to talk about it, but you can go through all of my scripts from Newsmax, if you call them that, or my on-air presentations. Everything's attributed. The president's attorneys say, the president says, their lawyers say, they claim they have evidence. All of that is attribution. And we still get sued. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether we're right or wrong. They bring it to court. They can wipe you out. Me as an individual, if they sue me for something I say on the radio here as an individual, what do? Yeah. I've got to hire an attorney. You would hope Salem Media would provide an attorney for you, or Real America's Voice or Newsmax would provide attorneys to their people. But now you're sued personally, and if you don't want to go through that nightmare,
then
and
you
it's
settle.
a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay? I've been through federal lawsuits. Nightmare.
Well, and the average person, even the average company, can't keep up. I mean, think about what people come at you with. I mean, how are you supposed to keep up with that? I mean, President Trump's attorneys coming at CBS, of course they're going to settle. Of course. I mean, that doesn't seem...
So that's what happens. So these news media companies, even though I believe in some aspects they're guilty, okay, they settle because they don't want to get a sympathetic jury to President Trump who's going to say, yeah, you owe him $400 million. And then you got to appeal that. And in the end, I'd rather give you $4 million because it's going to cost us that in legal fees to take this all the way to the Supreme Court.
Right. Why would we want to do that? And they're mitigating their risk, I think.
So all of us get shut down. And then in the end, all of us get shut down. I mean, all you need right now is who would be a great example of this? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. To start suing us for everything
Gavin
we say.
Newsom.
She's a ding-dong. Gavin Newsom. To start suing us for everything we say, even though he's a public figure. We believe what we're saying is true.
And he does overuse hair gel.
But how many times have we said the corrupt Gavin Newsom? Now, I believe that's true. I don't have knowledge that statement is false. I look at what his wife is doing with collecting money from
you look at the evidence.
state, and I look at the evidence, and I believe that to be true. And I'm an opinionator, right, which is different from a regular reporter.
Like
you
a
have
pollinator.
more protection. As I'm giving you my opinions.
Yep.
But overall, if he says, I'm suing him, he said I'm corrupt.
855.
I got to defend that.
785-8255. Elizabeth in North Hills on this. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. I think they would be less likely to be sued if the minute that the true information was out, that they would apologize as much as they reported so that everyone would be aware that they know they were wrong.
Now, let me tell you something. You want me to apologize for what I did with Dominion?
Well, were you wrong? Didn't Mike Lindell win his lawsuit?
No. No, he didn't. He didn't. He's won a couple lawsuits with certain things, but he's lost other big lawsuits, big ones.
Yeah, if they would honestly say, hey, we got this wrong, and we're sorry, and say it as many times as they say, oh, he's Hitler, oh, he's a Nazi, whatever. Yeah, maybe he wouldn't sue him.
I actually think you're right with Trump. I think if there was actually as much effort to correct the record than there was to report all the crazy news, that you probably wouldn't see a lawsuit. I think right now he's just had it. And so he's trying to make an example of what he thinks is a fake news media. But to Grant's point, we all are going to have to live with an administration that is run by a Democrat at some point. So we have to really decide what we support. And it should always lie with what's right. And Elizabeth, I thank you for the phone call. 855-785-8255. How about that?
Yeah. I don't know. I just know that's a really, really tough conversation because you want to hold the mainstream media accountable.
You do, because you know that they take real pleasure in promoting this stuff that they know is not true. But at the same time, you do have freedom of the press.
You've got to catch them in a lie.
Yeah.
Okay. Where they knew it was a lie. And that's, you know how hard that is to do?
It's rough.
Where they knew it was a lie. You need an email from Schiff to the editor of the New York Times saying,
here's a hot one for you.
I haven't seen anything, but let's just go on tomorrow and tell them that I've seen all the evidence.
Yep. And you're not going to get that. They're too smart.
No.
855-7.
So it's an interesting conversation because, believe me, the last thing I want is my speech to be chilled. And I know one of the comments was, well, you get discovery, and that's true, and it opens up a whole bunch of worms for them. But I'm an independent on this podcast. So, yeah, I take out insurance to try to cover me if anything, God forbid, was to happen on that front. But this costs me money. I don't have the power of a giant conglomerate behind me to pick up the slack. So, you know, you've got to be very, very careful. And so using the courts to go after free speech, even if you don't like the speech, I'm not a big fan of. I really am not. All right, well, that's going to do it for us today. Real America's Voice show tonight. Gavin Newsom holding a news conference. Let me warn you about something. I'm really concerned about Gavin Newsom. For the Democrats, he's winning right now. He's not beating us, but he's winning as far as rallying his Democrat base. This guy's brilliant. I know a lot of conservatives want to say, oh, no, Gavin Newsom, you know, what a ding-dong. He's not a ding-dong. This guy's frightening to me. I do radio in Los Angeles every day. I would say, well, Gavin Newsom's going to have to answer for his failed policies in California for the destruction of that once golden state. But he's not going to have to answer for anything. He's not going to have to answer for it because the media is not going to question him over it. So this guy is scary. If he gets to the point where he's running for president, and it looks to me like he sure is. He's holding a news conference today about California redistricting. He's fighting harder than most Republicans fight. I'm just going to say that, and it's a fact. He's fighting harder than most Republicans fight. I wish we could take a little bit of a playbook a page out of his playbook. But Republicans always want to be so polite, always back on their heels. No, Trump changed that. Trump isn't. But so many others are. We're going to talk about all that today. I'm trying to get Steve Hilton, who's running for governor in California as a Republican, on the program. He's become a good friend of mine, and it would be great if we get him on tonight. I'll try to make that happen. Anyway, Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thanks to all of you. We'll see you back. Another podcast Monday. We're off tomorrow. But Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you tune in. Stinchfield's Army rolls. God bless all of you. Thanks for watching, everybody.